He never believed in love. Alexander Gray, a billionaire CEO, had built his empire on logic, power, and detachment. Emotions were distractions, attachments were liabilities, and love, well, love was something he had long discarded. But life has a way of rewriting even the hardest rules. One rainy evening, as he returned late from a business trip, he heard a soft, trembling voice behind him. "Daddy." The word shattered the walls he had carefully constructed. Turning, he saw a tiny wide-eyed child, a little girl with a curl of his hair and eyes that mirrored his own. In that instant, the man who swore he didn't do love realized everything he had believed was a lie. Love wasn't a weakness. It wasn't a distraction. It was the small hand reaching for him, the whisper that changed his life forever, and the family he never knew he had. Rain streaked down the floor-to-ceiling windows of Gray Industries, turning the city skyline into a blur of silver and gray. Inside the penthouse office, Alexander Gray, 34, billionaire CEO and the picture of perfection, leaned over his polished mahogany desk. His gaze was sharp, calculating, and unyielding, just as it had always been. He had no time for sentimentality. Love was a weakness he could not afford. Distractions were liabilities, and attachments were mistakes he had vowed never to make. A soft knock on the door barely registered. "Mr. Gray, I'm busy," he said without looking up. The assistant, timid, cleared her throat. "Sir, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent." Alexander frowned. "I don't do urgent unless it's profit or crisis." The door opened slightly, and Alina Hart, a familiar presence from his past, stepped inside. Her eyes were cautious, her hands clutching a small folder. "Alexander, I need to speak with you." He finally looked up. Her name stirred something he hadn't felt in years: irritation, regret, nostalgia. "Hart," he said coldly. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "It's about her." Alexander's brow furrowed. "Who?" She hesitated. "Your daughter." The world slowed. His daughter. 3 years ago, he had left Alina. He had left everything. He had refused love, refused attachment, and told her he didn't do feelings. She had walked away quietly, and he thought he had succeeded in keeping emotions at bay. Now, standing in front of him, was a tiny child, no more than 3 years old, with wide, innocent eyes that mirrored his own. She clutched a small stuffed bear and looked up at him. "Daddy." The single word cut through Alexander's carefully constructed armor. His chest tightened, his hands trembled, and for the first time in years, he found himself at a loss. He had never imagined this. He had never considered that his past decisions could come back in the form of a small, fragile human being. A daughter he had never known existed. "Alexander, she's your child," Alina said softly, her eyes holding both warning and hope. "And she needs you." Alexander shook his head. Disbelief etched across his face. I don't do love. I can't." Alina stepped closer, her voice firm but gentle. "You do now? She needs a father. You need a family. And whether you like it or not, she is yours." The tiny hand of the little girl reached for him. Her grip was tentative, but it held the weight of a lifetime of emotion he had never experienced. Alexander hesitated, fear and longing warring in his chest. Then, slowly, he knelt down. The child's eyes widened in recognition. She reached out, and for the first time, Alexander felt the raw, unfiltered power of love, the kind that could not be negotiated, calculated, or controlled. It overwhelmed him. Over the next few days, Alexander tried to find a balance. Business calls, board meetings, and contracts still demanded his attention. But the small voice calling Daddy echoed in his mind relentlessly. Every number, every deal, suddenly felt hollow compared to the sound of her laughter, the way she clutched his hand, or the soft way she whispered his name at night. Alina was cautious. She watched him, testing him, weighing whether the man who had abandoned her and their daughter could truly change. Alexander struggled with himself. Old habits died hard. He was still the CEO, disciplined, precise, and driven, but the soft, tender moments with his daughter chipped away at the walls he had built for decades. One evening, after putting his daughter to bed, he sat alone in his office. The city lights below glimmered like a million tiny stars. He realized something he could no longer deny. Love wasn't weakness. It wasn't a distraction. It was everything he had been missing. And it had arrived in the form of a 3-year-old girl who called him Daddy. The hospital lobby was quiet, filled with the soft hum of fluorescent lights and the distant laughter of children. Alexander Gray stepped inside, his polished black shoes clicking softly against the tiled floor. For the first time, he didn't feel like a CEO walking into a meeting. He felt like a man stepping into a world he had long ignored. Alina Hart was there. her posture straight, yet cautious. She had arranged a charity partnership meeting at St. Mary's Hospital, and Alexander, driven by curiosity and obligation, had agreed to come, but he had no idea that life had plans far beyond paperwork and philanthropy. As he walked toward the conference room, he caught sight of her, Alina, sitting on a hospital bench with his daughter perched on her lap. The little girl's dark curls and hazel eyes mirrored his own. She held a small stuffed bear and giggled softly, reaching a tiny hand toward him. "Daddy." Time seemed to freeze. The word, soft yet clear, struck Alexander with the force of reality. The child he had never known, the one who existed because of choices he had once made, now called him Daddy. Elena's eyes flicked up to him, a mixture of caution and hope. "Alexander," she whispered. He froze. She said, "Daddy." His voice trembled slightly, betraying the calm, confident exterior he had always maintained. "Yes," Elena said quietly. "She's yours." Alexander knelt instinctively, allowing the little girl to approach him. She climbed onto his knee, clutching his hands with trust and innocence. Her laughter and tiny giggles filled the room, shattering the armor he had so carefully constructed over the years. You're my daughter," he stammered, eyes wide, voice cracking. I didn't know." Elena placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "I know. I didn't tell you because I didn't want her to grow up with a man who might leave. But you're here now, and she needs you. Don't run this time." He swallowed hard, guilt and love mingling in his chest. For the first time, he realized the true meaning of responsibility, not over companies, contracts, or wealth, but over the fragile hearts of those who depended on him. Over the following days, Alexander tried to find his place in this new family dynamic. He learned to cook breakfast for a 3-year-old, burnt toast and all, and began to understand bedtime routines, tantrums, and the importance of small gestures. Elena watched silently, measuring every word, every action. Could this man, who had once abandoned her, truly change? The daughter, innocent and unaware of adult conflicts, continued to call him Daddy. Each time she said it, the walls in his heart crumbled a little more. One afternoon, as they sat in the hospital courtyard coloring together, Elena broke the silence. "Alexander, this isn't a game," she said softly. "You have to commit. You can't just come here when it's convenient. You need to be here, for her, for me, and for yourself." He nodded. "I understand. I want to be here. I don't know how to fix the past, but I want to start, from now." The little girl looked up at him, tilting her head. "Daddy, do you love me?" Alexander's eyes filled with tears. I love you more than anything," he whispered, holding her tiny hands tightly. Elena's expression softened. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the vulnerability that no amount of money or power could hide. The real test came the following week. Alexander decided to take his daughter for a visit to his office, a place he once believed was his kingdom, but now felt empty without her presence. As they walked through the lobby, employees paused to stare. The CEO, who had always been untouchable, was now kneeling on the floor, helping a 3-year-old with her backpack. He laughed when she stumbled over her tiny feet, and she giggled uncontrollably. Elena watched from the doorway, a small smile playing on her lips. She knew he was changing. She could see the man she had loved, buried beneath the layers of ambition and pride, emerging for the first time. That evening, after putting his daughter to bed, Alexander found himself alone with Elena. "I never knew how much I was missing," he admitted quietly. "I thought I didn't need love. I thought children were distractions. But now, I can't imagine life without either of you." Elena met his gaze, her heart softening. "Actions speak louder than words. Alexander, show me. Don't just tell me." He nodded, determined. "I will. Every day, I promise." Over the next few months, the small moments became the foundation of their new family life. Alexander attended every school event, helped with homework, and spent weekends building forts and reading bedtime stories. Elena slowly lowered her guard, realizing that the man who had once hurt her was truly transforming. She saw him not just as a CEO, but as a father, as a partner, as a man capable of love. And through it all, the little girl's laughter echoed in their home, a constant reminder that love had finally found its place in Alexander Gray's heart. Rain pattered gently against the tall windows of Gray Industries. But inside Alexander Gray's penthouse, a different kind of warmth filled the air. The hum of city lights below couldn't compare to the laughter echoing from the living room. The laughter of a little girl calling, "Daddy, look." For the first time in years, Alexander wasn't counting deals, contracts, or profits. He was counting smiles, tiny hands clasped in his, and bedtime stories that ended with soft kisses on foreheads. The morning sun streamed through the windows as Alina Hart poured tea. The atmosphere was quiet but comfortable, a stark contrast to the tense, sterile air that had once dominated their lives. Alexander leaned against the doorframe, watching the twins, Lily and Lucas, chase each other around the room with toy airplanes. He laughed, a sound unfamiliar to him before, and felt an ache of gratitude he couldn't put into words. Alina glanced at him, her eyes softening. "You're really trying, aren't you?" He nodded, kneeling to help Lucas with a block tower. "I don't want to miss a single moment again. I've spent too long thinking I didn't need this, but I do. I need you. I need them. I need our family." Later that week, Alexander arranged a small celebration at the hospital for the twins' 3rd birthday. Balloons swayed in the gentle breeze, and fairy lights twinkled softly. Nurses and staff smiled as the CEO, now dressed in casual attire instead of his usual dark suit, handed out cupcakes. The twins squealed with delight, tugging at his hands, and calling him daddy repeatedly. Every time they did, he felt a rush of warmth and purpose he had never experienced in boardrooms or conferences. Alina watched from a few steps away, holding a cup of tea. She had seen men change before, but this transformation was different, genuine, patient, and full of love. The man who once swore he didn't do love was now the heart of this small, perfect family. That evening, Alexander sat beside Alina as the twins slept. The apartment was silent except for the soft hum of the city below. "I never thought I'd say this," he began quietly, "but I'm glad you never let me in completely before. You made me earn it. You made me understand what love really is, what it means to care, to protect, to be selfless." Elena's eyes glimmered with emotion. "And did you learn it?" He smiled softly. "Every day. I don't want to be the man I was. I want to be the man you and our children deserve." For a moment, they simply held each other's gaze, the past fading into nothingness as the present wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Over the following months, Alexander became a constant presence in their lives. He wasn't perfect, but he was present, attending school events, helping with bedtime routines, and finding joy in the small, simple moments he had once ignored. Alina gradually let go of her fear. She saw him navigate parenthood with patience, learn to laugh at mistakes, and embrace the unexpected. She realized that the man she had loved was still there, now tempered with humility, tenderness, and an unwavering commitment to family. The defining moment came on a quiet Sunday afternoon. The family sat in their small garden, the twins running around, chasing butterflies and squealing with delight. Alexander bent down to tie Lucas's shoelaces and then caught Lily mid-run, lifting her into his arms. "Daddy," she exclaimed, hugging him tightly. Alexander laughed, spinning her gently, his heart full. He looked at Alina, who was smiling softly, and realized that he had finally found the life he had been missing. Not deals, not power, not status. This was everything. Alina approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I was scared," she admitted. "I wasn't sure you'd ever change." He took her hands in his, eyes glistening. "I was scared too. Scared I wouldn't know how to love. But you and our children taught me." For the first time, there were no walls between them, no pride, no fear. Just love, a love they had fought for, learned from, and finally embraced. Weeks later, Alexander officially transferred the management of Gray Industries' charity division to Alina, giving her full control over hospital partnerships and child welfare programs. He stood beside her at the first event, watching her interact with children, guiding them, laughing with staff, and realized that her strength, compassion, and love had always been the true wealth he had missed. At the end of the day, he knelt beside the twins. "Do you know how much I love you?" he asked, ruffling their hair. They giggled. "We love you too, Daddy." Alina smiled from nearby, tears of joy shining in her eyes. Alexander Gray had finally learned the meaning of love, family, and redemption. He had chosen, not business, not pride, but the small hands that clung to him and the hearts that depended on him. And in that choice, he had found the life he was always meant to live. Sometimes, the richest, most powerful people realize that success isn't measured by money or fame, it's measured by love, family, and presence. Alexander Gray had built an empire, but he had lost the one thing that mattered most. A daughter he didn't even know he had, and the woman who had loved him, despite everything, when he chose to show up, to love, and to commit. He discovered the power of redemption, the beauty of second chances, and the magic of a family bound by heart rather than wealth. What would you do if the person who left your life returned, not with promises, but with change? Comment below and share this story with someone who believes in second chances, family bonds, and heartwarming love stories. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional millionaire romance stories that tug at your heartstrings.